I had a good friend in college who was very good at multitasking. When I visited her room, she could have a conversation with me and listen to the radio and watch a TV show and study. And she actually was studying and learning effectively. Some psychologists believe that women are better than men at multitasking. And your professors at Keimyung Adams are admittedly an older generation. We didn't grow up reading while listening to MP3 players and sending text messages. No one agrees yet whether young people now are actually better at multitasking, or if doing 3 things at one time makes for poor concentration and retention. The reason I'm talking about this story is that this episode is about memory and retention. Later, we'll be covering ways to improve your memory skills. For now, I'm going to talk about something more obvious. You cannot remember what you did not learn to begin with. If you are unable to concentrate and to pay attention to what you are learning, there will be nothing in your brain to recall later. In order for information to be recalled, it must be there already. How can we improve our concentration? To use an analogy, when is sound music and when is it noise? Well, that's simple. If you like the sound, it's music. If you don't like it, it's noise. For some people, like my college friend Tracy, the radio, TV, and conversation seem to have no effect on her learning. For other people like me, all of that racket would drive me crazy and prevent me from learning anything. So we're going to talk about distractions. And the first thing we need to make clear is that a distraction is personal to you. I personally did a lot of afternoon studying in bars. I actually liked the constant white noise and could ignore it. It was easier for me to concentrate in a bar than in a library, where silence alternated with occasional noises. That just drove me crazy and broke my concentration. But that's just me. So when we talk about distractions, remember that we mean sounds and other stimuli that you don't like and which make concentration harder for you. Let's talk about how to improve concentration then. To state the obvious, if you are going to concentrate, you must first decide that you are going to pay attention to what you're learning and that you are going to ignore distractions as best as you can. We want to work smart, remember? It's far more efficient for you to concentrate like a laser beam on your work for 1 hour than to be half engaged with your work for 4 hours. Let's classify distractions into 2 categories. One is internal. Problems with your body, such as being hungry, feeling sick or tired, thinking about personal problems, being stressed, being uncomfortable, or having negative thoughts about your professor, can all distract you from concentration. Some of these distractions can be controlled. It might be a more efficient use of your time to eat something or to rest. If your chair is uncomfortable, move. Internal distractions can generally be dealt with by working smart or by having some mental discipline. As my pastor used to say, you are the drum major of your mind. It goes where you tell it to. The second category of distractions is external. People talking to each other in the library. Noisy people talking on cell phones. Nose sniffers. Candy wrappers. Music or noise. Lighting that is too bright or too dim. Room temperatures that are too hot or cold. Wind or bad weather if you are studying outside. A pen that runs out of ink. Or you forgot your notebook. Or someone keeps calling you to tell you about the party at the East Gate. All of these things can make you crazy. Because these distractions are external, you can't always control them. You may have to learn to shut them out and focus. If you can't, move. It's a big world. Find the place which has an environment you can learn in. It's worth finding out. Much of this relies on your multiple intelligences. Visual learners might need a study space with calendars, maps, colors, or they may find all of that distracting. Auditory learners might need to avoid noisy places, or they may find listening to classical music helpful. Some people learn better when they are moving, people who have strong body intelligence. Learn your body, learn what sort of study environment works for you to concentrate. I know that if I sleep in too late and don't get any exercise, I can't concentrate. Others are morning people or night people and can pay attention best at those times. These are things you learn about yourself so that you can work smart. Now, when we're talking about concentration, we're not just talking about reading. Learning happens in many different situations and environments. Concentration also applies to classrooms. There, you can't leave, and you can't have your class at midnight if you're a night person. You're going to need to develop skills of concentration to deal with the internal and external distractions that you might experience in those situations. In other words, you need to deal with concentration in a classroom where you can't control everything that's happening. We're going to deal with this in part 2, but first we're going to move to the subject of improving your skills of memory retention and recall.
Let's look at a few more important issues related to memory. We have the 3 R's of memory. They are the entire process of remembering something. So first, record. Before you can memorize something, you actually have to see it, and it has to enter your brain. Then, the next step is retaining it. That's when your brain stores these new information for later use. You can strengthen it by calling to mind something you've seen and using it several times. The more you use it, the more it sticks in your memory. Recall is the step when you pull old information, or older information out of your, basically retrieving or recognizing information at the time that you need it. I'll show you some facts about different people that you might have met at such a party. Study these facts for 3 or 4 minutes. I'm going to take them away and ask you to recall some information that you saw. Now get a paper and see if you can answer these questions right quick. As you look now at the original chart along with the questions, notice there are some possible memory aids. Claudia's favorite activity could be done at her favorite place. She likes hiking. Her favorite place is the Grand Canyon. Obviously, you can do these things together. Bill's favorite book, movie, and activity are related. Matt's eye color and favorite book are related if you happen to know the name of the author of that book, which is Dan Brown. So, although this particular chart may not have been important information for you to memorize, you probably have other facts and things you have to memorize. See if you can find some way to connect them in your memory, such as finding a direct relationship between two things, such as hiking in the Grand Canyon, and you can use these to help you improve your own memory. Now, let's look at a few more tips for memory boosting. If you motivate yourself, if you can find in your own desires a reason to be doing something, such as studying for a test or whatever, it's much better for you than if you simply feel that you have to do it because it's required. Internal motivation is better than external motivation most of the time. Think about acquiring skills for your life goal as opposed to simply doing what's necessary to get a good grade. We discussed previous lessons how to listen and read actively. Perhaps you can recite information out loud to engage your hearing as well. And not only will you be speaking, obviously, the memories and the information, but you can hear it again and pull it right back into your memory. Preview materials before a lecture, review them afterwards, assess your prior knowledge, concentrate, try your best to ignore distractions, take notes, review, think critically, ask questions. All of these things can help. Here are some more tips to help you power up your memory. I'll give you a few notes for each one. We've told you many times to be an active learner, so deciding to remember means you consciously choose to take the effort to help yourself remember something. Number 2, we really recommend that you review something regularly. Don't wait until 11 p.m. or 12 a.m. before a test at 9 o'clock in the next morning and start cramming. That's not really going to help you very much. But if you review periodically between each session of that class and periodically building up to the test, you'll have a much better result. Remember that stress is a distraction that can impede your learning and retention. Try to use some relaxation techniques. Have a regular outlet for stress, try exercise, drink a new kind of tea, whatever works for you, but try something. You may decide, for example, to recite things that you have been studying for a class while maybe riding a bike, walking, or exercising. This opens new sensory pathways that can help you remember more for a longer time. Mnemonics are handy. Try using games, rhymes, lists of words or letters that aid in your memory. An example of a mnemonic is this phrase. It's often used to help people remember what order the colors of the rainbow go in. Roy G. Biv, like it's a name. And so we know the colors of the rainbow are red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet, in that order. Associate. Try to connect new information to something you already know. To learn the 3 stages of memory, you might try to connect it to the computer processes of input, storage, and output. Visualize, Form a mental picture of the information. Draw this image as well and help it stick in your mind even better. Call it up to your working memory to keep it fresh and help yourself in retaining that image for a longer period of time. Review before sleeping helps you retain information. When you wake, try to recall what you reviewed the night before. Another strategy that you may already have used, which is fairly popular, I think, is dump data. As soon as you get a test paper, immediately write down some of your memory clues or keywords in the margin before beginning an exam. You may also decide to use several of these strategies in combination for an even greater effect. We mentioned acronyms on the previous screen, so you may know a few of these here. Certainly, I'm sure you know SQ3R. You might want to try making your own acronyms to help you memorize important terms or key information from a class that you're taking now. Another example of mnemonic, this is one that some school students, English-speaking countries, might learn to help them memorize zoological terms. The first letters, K, P, C, O, F, G, S, stand for different words related to biology. You can review acronyms that you have made by repeating them to yourself when you have some time, such as maybe when you're walking to class or lunch. You don't have to say them out loud. Or you may jot them down in your notes at the start of class while the professor is taking roll. Finally, let's look at an ideal study place and what kind of characteristics it has. In particular, there are 6 characteristics I'd like you to think about as you consider how suitable your own study place is. We hope that it has all of these features. Sometimes have silence. Sometimes I even have electronic music, like trance or something else. In any case, I usually prefer music without words. Why would that be? Music with words, especially if I know the language, often distracts me, and I know other people have the same experience. This might be true for you. You might want to try avoiding music with words, especially, Korean language music. While you study. For location, you want a place where you make the rules. Basically, you want to avoid eye strain. Eye strain occurs if you have poor lighting, it's too dark, color is wrong, it's uncomfortable, and your eyes are having to work too hard to see what's on the page. If it's too warm, you'll probably doze off. If it's too cold, you'll be concentrating on how cold you feel, and you won't be able to concentrate on what you're trying to study. Try taking some layers. That way, if you get too hot, you can take something off. If you get cold, you can put it back on again. With furniture, try to adjust your furniture so it's comfortable. Maybe put an extra cushion in your chair or something else. You want your body to be relaxed and in the right posture. You may have seen this kind of diagram before. Use it to consider if your furniture, your study place, is ergonomic. Are you having to lean too far forward? Is your desk too short? Too high? What can you do to adjust it? These tips are especially important if you're going to be packing your books and things to go to the library to study for a long period of time. You can't dash over to your desk in your dormitory if you're all the way in the library. So you want to be prepared before you go. Choose things that you'll actually need and use. We wouldn't want you to have a huge and heavy book bag just to go study. So consider, what are you going to need? If you keep them at hand, you're ready to go and you don't have to spend needless time searching for them in your bag or borrowing from a friend. And last, motivational aids. Do you remember the other things that we've talked about? We've also asked you not to punish yourself by having to study too much at one sitting. So maybe promise yourself a reward and say, all right, I'm going to study this topic for 25 minutes, and then I'll take a 5-minute break, whatever works for you. See how it can improve your own study. Some parting thoughts. While you may not have the best memory, especially if you're like me, there are many steps you can take to improve your memory.